So I do not know what's going on in the ATV. I just don't have the bandwidth. So, wish them luck.
Hello everybody, welcome back to The Body Serve. I'm Jonathan.
I'm James.
The Olympics are over. We watched very little of it.
I'm surprised you even mentioned it. Honestly, it wasn't really a big thing for us. We're more Summer Olympics people.
It was a big thing for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Everybody seemed to be really enjoying it. Good for them.
I was able to catch the women's free skate, figure skating finals. That's kind of like the marquee event for me.
I grew up with the Tonya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan, brouhaha situation. And then that bled into Tara Lipinski and Michelle Kwan. And for me, figure skating just has not been the same. I've struggled to have the same level of interest. I think the last time I followed the circuit was with Kim Yuna. Like I used to actually watch all the Grand Prix and all that stuff. My favorite skater growing up was Maria Butirskaya. And for those who know, you know, that was a very specific type of experience, being a fan of Butirskaya, whereby, you know, you'd have fabulous short skates and then come long program time, it's a calamity. But my interest in figure skating has always been more the artistic side, and with the development of the quads and the explosion of the quads, like, just miss me with that. I'm not interested. Apologies to that man who fell all over the place and missed all his elements as the favorite. Malinin, what was his name? Ilya Malinin?
Ilya.
Like, it's just not giving what it needs to give for me. But Alyssa Liu, fabulous story.
That was so much fun to watch. I absolutely loved her skate to MacArthur Park, one of the strangest songs in pop music history.
You should have your gay card rescinded.
It is a strange song.
You do not like that song.
I don't.
And that is unforgivable. Do you remember Ilya
Rozanov?
Ilya Kulik?
No.
Wow.
Is it mandatory? Like, is the story over now that I don't remember him?
He was the boy wonder of men's figure skating around 97, 98, and who in pop culture was the boy wonder in the acting world at that time?
Ilya.
Yes. And those two, well, Ilya kind of piggybacked off of that aesthetic to win the hearts and have the ladies swooning all over the place. Look him up now.
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Okay. I will say, like you, and like probably a lot of millennial gays, it was the Lillehammer Olympics that brought us into the sport. The Tonya Harding of it all just was too much to resist. And then Oksana Bayul sweeping in and grabbing the gold. I got to see her in the Nutcracker on Ice with my grandparents and my sister in Rochester, New York, of all places. Pretty cool, huh?
Well, this was part of what made figure skating so much fun to watch, because these skaters, they'd retire and then they'd go pro. And then you'd be able to see them compete as professionals as well.
Oh, he's married to Ekaterina Gordeva?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess I am seeing the Leo of it all. You know, not quite a movie star, but he was cute. We didn't watch the men back in the gay 90s. My mom was really into Elvis Stoico and Philippe Candeloro.
I was very into Philippe Candeloro. And then, of course, you had the Yagurin, you had Plushenko. And with Kim Yuna in like 2011, 2012, that's where it just kind of ended for me. Like,
yeah.
It just felt like you could not capture that magic again.
Well, the past few Olympics have felt a little bit icky because there's been a procession of very young Russian girls who have won big Olympics, win a gold medal, burn out immediately, and they're all tied to the same coach. So it's been hard to get into lately.
Alyssa Liu retired after the last Olympics at what age? Was she even 20 at that point? Took 2 years off, came back, won a world championship, and then now look what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Also with this Olympic cycle, you had Ilya Malinin doing the backflip, and we know what we lived through in the 90s with Surya Bonali and the backflip.
This has been talked to death. I realize. Love Surya. The backflip. Can we just talk about Ilya's free skate for a moment? I am not really familiar with him. I haven't seen him skate very much. That was shocking.
It was as big of an upset as you could ever imagine in any given event. This man was so favored to win. It's unreal what happened.
It wasn't even just the jumps, though. He couldn't even spin. It was just so perplexing to watch. It just seems like, his head sort of took him away from there immediately once he got on the ice, like he wasn't even there.
He's young. He'll have other chances. Maybe he'll do 10 quads next time. He'll do quad in combination. And, I would implore that given he didn't even need half of those quads to win this title, maybe he trades some of those out for some artistic work in the meantime. Get a little bit more balance in his routine.
You did a lot of reading in grad school sport history about like the resistance to artistry in men's figure skating, and
Yes.
which for some people is the surprising homophobia and fear of femininity in male figure skating.
Care to say more?
Well, I'm not an expert in the sport, but sometimes it results in male figure skaters who are incredible athletes, but who seem to purposefully avoid the artistic elements of the sport.
The Stoikos of the world,
Right.
famously, as opposed to a Rudy Galindo at the time. Anyway, tennis. Serena Williams is officially eligible to play a tennis tournament.
Yep, but February 22nd was her official reinstatement day. She can play wherever she can get a wild card at the moment. Venus has wild cards to Indian Wells for both singles and doubles. She'll be teaming up again with Leylah Fernandez.
She's playing against Ayla Tomljanovic in Texas tomorrow. Which tournament is
She's
that?
playing
Dallas?
Austin as well.
Austin, okay.
God, you asked me yesterday, is Venus going to play a full season? And I was like, what's a full season for Venus or for any player her age? What is a full season?
12 tournaments. It's possible.
Yeah, I would say that's full.
This past week, the men were in Doha, and we got, Charles showed that he is still in charge, and Yannick Sinner suffered a blip, a loss in the quarterfinals to Jakub Menšík in 3 sets, 6-7, 6-2, 3-6.
Oh, you're doing the score backwards.
Yes,
From the perspective of the loser.
correct.
Okay. The dolls are learning that Yannick is not infallible, and he and his team were really, really good for a long time at making it appear that he was unbeatable. But they are starting to avoid giving him those angles on both sides because the power and the speed that he can get when he's running to the corners, it's too much. Like, it's too much to defend. So some of these players are learning to hit deep in the middle of the court and take that away from him.
Carlos beat Archufis in the final in straight sets. It was 51 minutes. It was a demolition. It was not even close. Carlos was on one. He was playing some kind of video game tennis. That match point is all you need to see, and you can just figure how the rest of it went.
Yeah, Fis won only 5 points on Carlos's serve. Carlos himself said he played amazing, that it was probably top 15, top 10 matches of his life. Nobody was really beating him on that day, but a huge effort from Archufis to reach the final here. This is only his 3rd tournament back from injury, and he beat 2 of the top 10 seeds here, Lehechka and Menšík. Just a great finish. Unfortunately, he ran into a buzzsaw in the final.
The only blip for Carlos at this tournament was in the quarterfinals when Karen Khachanov took him to 3 sets. Carlos came back from losing the first set to go on to win 6-4, 6-3. You mentioned that this was a great tournament for Fis. He beat Lehechka in the quarterfinals, then Menšík, the Sinner conqueror, in the semis before losing to Carlos in the final.
We got a rematch of Medvedev-Tsitsipas, really a vintage matchup at this point, and Stefanos' first win over Daniel since 2022.
Hey man, you better shut your fuck up, okay?
Right? They have met 15 times now, and Medvedev leads 10-5. A good showing from Andrei Rublev to reach the semifinals. Did you hear? Well, I think you heard because you probably wrote this on the agenda. Goran Ivanisevic is working with Fis on a trial basis.
He's landed somewhere less volatile for the moment. We'll
Perhaps.
see if that will implode as well.
Going from Djokovic to Rybakina to Tsitsipas.
3 ATP top 10 stalwarts still on the outside looking in. Daniil Medvedev at 11. He's just about 500 points behind Bublik at number 10. Andrei Rublev is at 17 or 18. I'm looking at the live rankings. It could be a little bit wonky. He's a ways out. There's well over 1,000 points outside the top 10. And then the other one is Stefanos Tsitsipas. Of course, he had a decent run in Doha. Made what, the quarterfinals?
Quarters, yeah.
He's outside the top 40.
Oof.
Well, that's after this week. He's got a lot of points to defend in Dubai. He's outside the top 30.
Down in Delray Beach, Florida, we got the American Sebastian Korda beating Tommy Paul 6-4, 6-3. This was not shocking, but a bit of a surprising title run. Korda has been kind of all over the place with injury. He's won 2, now 3 titles in his career, but his career has been really start and stop. He had a promising finish at Dallas, and he beat Francis Tiafoe in straight sets there, losing to Taylor Fritz in 3 sets, but I think this title is a pretty surprising result and pretty encouraging for him.
Well, for him, it's been injuries.
Yes.
Right? And somebody wrote on, I think, Blue Sky, that Korda now has more career titles than Musetti.
Yes, that's correct. He's working with his new coach, Ryan Harrison. Did you know that?
Who, Korda?
Yes.
Well, maybe that will keep him off air a little bit more.
Maybe. Tommy Paul, the runner-up, beat Taylor Fritz in the semifinals. Tommy Paul, the runner-up, beat Taylor Fritz in the quarters. Lerner Tien, another semifinal run. Pretty impressive stuff against Francis Tiafoe in the quarters. Francis had this third set in hand, right? He was pretty close. It was 5-3. Everything kind of fell apart after that incredible around-the-post winner that everybody celebrated, and then it was just collapse from there on out. Lerner obviously has world-class defense, but Francis's decision-making through this match was a little bit suspect. He was successfully getting to the net and then really often just making the wrong choice. And you have to think he's probably rattled because you imagine Lerner can get everything back. But a few times he didn't go for the percentage shot. Went to, pick the wrong volley.
It's just another case of Francis losing a match that he should have won, from being in a position where the percentages are heavily in your favor and you choose not to play them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the prototype of a match that makes being a fan of Tiafoe maddening. That was rough to watch, frankly.
Yes. Down in Rio, Tomas Etcheverry finishes 2 matches on Sunday to win the title here. Believe it or not, this is his first ATP title. I was surprised to hear that. He had reached 3 prior finals, never won a title.
He was boosted by Fonseca's fruit stand. All those fruits that he ate
all that
at that
papaya,
fruit stand.
that guava.
Gave him all the nutrients.
That was a cute little promo. The Rio PR and promo team was doing a good job. They had some nice little videos.
They had the dog walk out. That was them too, right?
Oh, I don't know. The dog.
They had dogs walking, instead of a ball kid,
Oh.
walking the players out. There was a dog on a leash. And I have to say, with this segment, it was very cute. I enjoyed it. You had a bunch of ATP players going up to João Fonseca's alleged fruit stand in Brazil and trying different kinds of fruits and then rating them. I thought that Berrettini had way too many strong opinions in this segment.
I agree.
I was not feeling it. He was coming in like he was the arbiter of fruit taste. Like, sir, this is
Right.
a little bit of a kiki kaka hit for giggle exhibition here. You don't need to be doing all that.
This is South America. They have a lot of cool fruits. Just get into it, babe.
Like these Italians, they pretend like they have...
Oh, watch it now.
They have the authority on everything cuisine. Mm-hmm.
Back to Tomas.
Etcheverry had a really long day. His semifinal match against Vit Kopriva carried over from the day before. He had to play essentially 2 matches on the same day, totaling 6 hours, 6 sets to win his first title. The final against Tabilo lasted 3 hours and 6 minutes. Etcheverry, unsurprisingly, fell behind after all that workload that he had already tallied. He was down 3-6, 1-3 before turning the match around and winning 3-6, 7-6, 6-4. This tournament also saw the breakout of Ignacio Buse. He beat Fonseca in the round of 16 and then followed up by beating Berrettini in the quarterfinals. And that, you would think, is the thing that we'll remember most about Ignacio this week. However, it is not.
Somebody at Tennis TV tweeted, "Painting the lines like his name is Bussy. A stroke of genius from Ignacio Buse." Excuse me? Now, a helpful Blue Sky follower pointed out that there is a painter called Simon Bussy, spelled Bussy.
Born 1870, died 1954.
Still, I do not really see the correlation. I guess their names are similar, but
If the artist were Peruvian, like Ignacio, maybe you could have a more... a better correlation. But this was a stretch. This was a messy gay.
do you think so?
Presumably.
Painting the lines like his name is Bussy. Bussy.
Who would have...
Excuse me?
Yeah, this is either some kind of art history major or...
Who didn't realize the
Exactly.
alternate meaning.
Who is
Yeah.
outside of the community, or a messy queen inside the community.
Who
One
thought
of the
they
two.
were getting one past the censors. It was deleted. Fonseca had a tough tournament losing to Buse, but he did win the doubles title with Zverev bestie Marcelo Mello.
That man, he's found another mark.
It will never end.
He's 42 years old, playing more or less full-time on the double circuit, but he seems to have this habit of partnering with younger men and
becoming
riding
their best friend.
coattails.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Over in Dubai, of course, we had the 1,000 level event on the WTA. Jessie Pegula, queen of consistency.
This is the 7th consecutive tournament where Pegula has made at least the semifinals. This dates back to Cincinnati last year. Since then, she's made 5 semifinals, made the final in Wuhan, and now the title in Dubai.
Somebody even asked her on Twitter, being kind of an asshole, how many titles from all those semis, and she said Dubai pending. And guess what? Dubai delivered. Ms. Pegula delivered.
She beat Elina Svitolina in the final 6-2, 6-4. I think I recall saying at the start of the year that this was going to be one of Svitolina's best seasons. She made the semifinals in Australia, finals here now in Dubai. Svitolina got to the final by having a knockdown, drag-out, crazy semifinal against Coco Gauff.
Yes.
It was not the easy trouncing that Coco received at the Australian Open. This was hard fought. Coco came back from a set down, I believe won a 15-13 second set tiebreak before losing 6-4 in the third. A match well over 3 hours. Jessie, to get to the final, she beat Amanda Anisimova, improving her head-to-head against Amanda to 5-love. Most recently beating her in Australia in straight sets, again here in Dubai. It's almost a carbon copy of Australia for both of these semifinals. Both who won in Australia won again here in Dubai. Anisimova seems to be giving us memes every single time out on the tennis court, because especially when something's not going right for her lately, she is very animated on court. This time she whacked the hell out of her racket.
Jessie remains at number 5, 35 points behind Coco Gauff. I want to say Jessie is not a pusher. I know a lot of people throw that label around. They find her boring, uninspired, but she is not a pusher. She is a baseliner who takes the ball early, who hits deep, flat, and accurate balls. I think it's unfair the way people describe her game, just because they don't really find it that interesting. I think they underestimate how difficult it is to deal with.
She said after the tournament that she's obsessed with becoming a better tennis player. She is a model of consistency, so much so that if you're at the quarterfinal stage of any tournament, nobody would be surprised to see her there, but yet nobody would probably be picking her to win the tournament.
Mm-hmm. But now she has multiple titles at the 1000 level. She's been to a slam final. She can hang with everybody and beat mostly everybody. I think it's a really exciting time we're in the WTA that I think it dawned on a lot of people quite recently with Jessie winning this title, is that we do actually have this solid kind of top 5 to 6 block of players on the WTA who are all fighting with each other for the biggest titles.
6 players have over 6,000 ranking points. Sabalenka, Swiatek, Rybakina, Goff, Pegula, Anisimova all have 6,000 points or more, and so you consider those to maybe be the top core 6. But it doesn't end there, of course. You've got Mira Andreeva, won 2 Masters 1000s last year back-to-back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got Svitolina resurgent Vicky Mboko in the top 10. Muhova, Madison Keys, Naomi Osaka, young players like Clara Towson, Iva Jovic, Gianna Schneider, that's all in the top 20. Then you've got Zheng Qinwen outside the top 20 making her way back. She's at number 23. There's a lot of serious talent on the WTA Tour. We probably sound like a broken record saying this, but the statistics are now starting to back that up. Back up what we're saying, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think what's most notable about what this era has become is that top tier that has separated itself from the rest of the tour. It doesn't mean that there are not going to be surprising title winners, but there are fewer, right? There's fewer out-of-nowhere winners. The top 6, who, like you said, all have 6,000 points or more, which is kind of crazy, are reliably challenging for those big titles, with a clear number 1 as well.
Well, yes, but not an impregnable number 1.
No, but a clear number 1 who has separated herself from the pack in points and in titles.
And so how does Serena fit into this landscape if she's coming back? I feel it's a much tougher landscape than when she left.
It sure is. Serena's 44 years old. Like I said last time, I don't have any expectations. I don't know if this is even going to be a comeback. Like, what her goals are, I don't know.
I mentioned Zheng Qinwen, that she's just outside the top 20 in the rankings, and that she's back playing some good matches. She made a guest appearance on the Players Box podcast.
Jessie and Des Krawczyk were somewhere in Dubai, and they were just trying chocolate. It was some, content they were putting out for the podcast, and Qinwen just kind of wanders by and invites herself to join. And it was all very impromptu, so they're just kind of chilling and trying chocolate together and chit-chatting, and it's very cute. And Des says something like, "Okay, thanks for stopping by," and it was kind of like, all right, ushering her off the screen. And then Qinwen just comes out of nowhere with this question for Jessie. She says, "In China, we say, why is such a rich girl playing tennis? Tennis is such a hard sport. Like, why not just live like a high-class life?" Totally apropos of nothing, this question came.
And if you recall, in China, Pegula's nickname is Big Rich.
Yes.
So this is evidence.
And Jessie did actually answer this question later in press. She didn't... It wasn't really much of a question, actually. It was almost like an accusation. But she did answer it later and talked about how tennis was always her dream and she's now able to live her dream. She always wanted to be number 1 and win Grand Slam titles. And she always talks about her career as if she's sort of lucky to be here. That's something I've noticed about Jessie, that she seems pretty grateful to be playing tennis at this high level, because I don't think it was expected of her. The last thing I'll say about Dubai is that Coco Gauff, she has social media apoplectic every single time she plays really a match of any kind, but especially a bad match. And we have to accept that this is the deal with Coco, that if you're going to follow her, you're going to observe a lot of technical problems combined with major fight. And in this match against, I think it was the Svitolina match, she sort of lashed out at her coach a little bit in her, not that harsh Coco Gauff way, saying, I've done everything you said for the past 6 months. Why is this still happening? Why is this still not working?
She opened against Kalinskaya, beat her in straight sets, 6-4, 6-4. Had to come back against Mertens in the round of 16, winning 11-9 in the second set tiebreak before winning 6-3 in the third. And then she just completely waxed Alex Ayala in the quarterfinals. 6-love, 6-2 before losing to Svitolina in the semifinals. All told, it's a week she can build on, hopefully. This after losing 6-4, 6-2 to Cochereto in Doha in her first match.
I think, as a fan, I say that the harsh truth is that there are some serious technical problems that probably require months off tour to truly address. And I don't know that we'll ever get that.
She's shown that she can still win very big tournaments, some of them the biggest, with these issues. So
yes.
It's just, as you say, something that we all, including Coco, have to deal with at this point.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard this, that David Nalbandian is joining Grigor Dimitrov's team as a coach.
I did not hear that. No.
Yeah, he'll be working alongside Xavier Melis, who joined earlier this year. I always liked Nalbandian as a player quite a bit. And then he sort of retired in this horrible controversy. Do you remember? He was
an asshole, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at the end of his career. He was playing a grass court tournament, and he kicked one of those little wooden boxes that a line judge was sitting behind and injured the guy's leg, like, badly. It was a really ugly display, and that was sort of the last many of us saw of David Nalbandian.
I feel like there were other things as well.
Probably.
But I'm unable to recall at the moment.
I think
he of course is known for his prowess against the big three.
Yes.
Isn't he the only one who ever who beat all three of them in the same tournament?
Possibly. But I was a big fan of anyone who could beat Roger back then in the mid-2000s. I remember Nalbandian won the ATP finals, I believe, beating Roger. Well, we just took a quick break, and while we were breaking, I looked up the Nalbandian incident, and it was actually the 2012 Queen's Club final. He was playing against Marin Cilic, and he kicked the board, injured the line judge, and was defaulted, of course. Cilic won the title, and in the moment, Nalbandian implied that the default was just way too much for what he did. And I hope that he looks back and realizes that it was the appropriate sanction at this time. But he did play into 2013. That wasn't his last gasp on tour.
We got word this past week that there's going to be a Tour Architecture Council for the WTA, and this will be led by Jessie Pegula. Pegula seems to be the glue on tour right now. Like, she's the glue person.
Yeah. Jumping back to Zheng for a second, she is not known around tour to be a player who has a lot of friends, or a lot of people have made sort of offhand remarks about her, but just the ease with which she dipped into that discussion with Jessie and Des was really cute, and makes me think that Jessie is probably very well respected and well liked on tour.
But we'll also never know the full truth behind that. People are often not very nice to people who go their own way on tour,
Oh, totally. This new working group was announced by the new WTA chair, Valerie Camillo, in an open letter. And she said that this group will recommend, quote, actionable improvements to the tour, many of which could be implemented as soon as the 2027 season. Of course, there will only be improvements that the WTA has control over, so don't look at improvements or changes to the slams. We're talking about WTA Tour here.
Also involved in this venture are Victoria Azarenka, Maria Sakkari, Katie Volinets, Anya Vreg, tournament reps Bob Moran, who works with Cincinnati and Charleston, Laura Ceccarelli, former VP at the WTA, currently on the WTA Tournament Council for Asia Pacific, Alistair Garland, who's the managing director of Octagon Tennis.
So it's set up in a similar way to the WTA Council, the Players Council, the Tournament Council, come together to form the board. So there's player representatives, tournament representatives, there's 3 WTA Tour reps. You know, I would like to be optimistic about this. Jessie is a very articulate and smart leader. She talked about the challenges facing players in press this week. I just think this is not enough. I like to see this initiative happening, but I don't think there's anything short of a genuine players' union that will make fundamental change on either tour. Because you've now created a new group that has the similar conflict of interest built in at its heart, where players and tournament representatives have to sort of fight for their own vested interests.
We're just going to have to take a wait-and-see approach.
Sorry, was that too pessimistic?
Possibly.
Like I said, I really like to see this move. I didn't know that it was coming. Jessie obviously comes from a family of sports owners. Although every time I see the Pegula name, people are complaining about what Terry Pegula is doing at the Buffalo Bills. I don't know what's going on at the Bills. Although I'm from Western New York, my family was a New York Giants and New England Patriots family, and I know nothing about either of those teams, or all 3.
What's the relevance here?
Just something that was on my brain.
In an interview with Reem Abilil in Press, Pegula said that she's focusing on challenges in the calendar. Travel time, weeks off, quote, some weeks become a bit of a sacrifice if you're thinking long term.
And she talked about the number of players who've withdrawn from this tournament, who have to plan their schedule meticulously because there aren't a lot of weeks off and there are penalties associated with taking major tournaments off.
With the WTA product being so strong right now, maybe the players are in a good bargaining position to say, hey, it doesn't matter if 5 of the top 10 aren't here. You're still going to get a great product. You're still going to get a great tournament, which was the case in Dubai. There were all these withdrawals and retirements. The field was decimated, but the product was still good. It seems that maybe this is an initiative that will deal with more micro things that affect the players rather than big picture sweeping changes type things.
Right. But may have a real impact on their quality of life.
I just know you're ready and hoping you could just talk the whole episode about this next topic.
No. Tara Moore is now suing the WTA for $20 million in damages because they did not warn players that there was a risk of contaminated meat in South America. Just a quick recap. Tara tested positive for boldenone and nandrolone in 2022. This was after the tournament in Bogota, Colombia. She claimed that her positive test was a result of eating meat at the tournament that was contaminated with these steroids. We've seen this before. In December 2023, an independent tribunal cleared her, saying that she had no fault or negligence. The ITIA then appealed this ruling to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. That was heard, and CAS gave her a 4-year ban, stating that the concentration of the drugs in her sample could not be explained by contaminated meat alone, that it was way too high. At the time of that ruling, CAS said that Tara failed to establish that nandrolone was present in the meat, and on top of that, her sample contained a very high concentration of boldenone, so there's these 2 steroids present in the same sample. They said that 1 serving of meat contaminated by the 2 substances would be unprecedented in doping history. Or the alternative, that 2 different servings were contaminated by 2 separate substances, that would also be unprecedented.
I think appeals in these drug situations need only be one-way traffic. I honestly do not like that the ITIA is able to petition CAS to throw out decisions that have already been made by this independent tribunal. If anything, shore up that first hearing. Make that more amenable to the tennis authorities feeling like they have their interests represented better.
Right.
But I just don't like that these things can happen and they'll be like, well, actually, no, we're gonna try and double down on the Babylonialism. You know, like, why? Why are we doing this at this point? I feel like there must be a better way to make the whole process more succinct and efficient.
Yeah. This one stretched on quite a while, and Moore has been talking about how long it took, specifically, to go from the positive test to the hearing with the independent tribunal, which was like a year and a half. But as a U.S. American, we grow up in a system where you get tried by the government. If the government or if the state fails to convict you, that's it. They can't appeal it, right? They can't appeal the ruling. It's different in other countries, of course. In other countries, the government can actually say, well, I don't like that verdict. We're going to take it to a higher appeals court. And that's what you see in doping law, is that the ITIA looked at this ruling from an independent tribunal and said, no, our scientists are saying that that's wrong. We're going to appeal it to the highest authority in doping, which is the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
At a certain point, should we be giving these tennis players a freebie? Like, up to a certain threshold of banned substance, if you test positive for one of them, you get a fine, or you get your name put in a newspaper somewhere and say, hey, this person tested positive for so-and-so.
A shaming.
You get a public shaming, and there's no material effect to your career, because there's no real way to tell one way or another whether somebody is actually guilty or not.
Right. And doping is a strict liability offense. So the athlete is in a position where they have to prove their innocence rather than the prosecutor proving your guilt. What you said is similar to something Andy Roddick said during the Yannick Sinner case.
Oh, really?
Talking about like tiny concentrations of drugs and whether those should be prosecuted. And at the time we said, well, these tiny concentrations can also be a sign of the drug leaving someone's body. It can also be a sign of the use of masking agents. So there's like a slippery slope in that, because it doesn't rule out intentional use of performance-enhancing drugs. That's not the case here. The case here is that Tara was caught with actually a very high concentration of anabolic steroids in her sample. Now, in this present lawsuit, she's currently serving a 4-year ban. She's not contesting that because there's actually nobody left to appeal that to. Now she's saying that the WTA had concrete, actionable knowledge of a specific and well-documented danger of contaminated meat in Bogota, Colombia.
Are they referring to Robert Farrell?
A similar thing, right?
No, but is that the documented case?
There are more than just that. Another player from the tournament tested positive, and the lawsuit goes on to say, yet it chose to remain silent, failing to warn its athletes about that risk. Fair enough, but I don't understand how this goes forward. I mean, I don't understand the law well enough to get it. I realize this is civil law. She's suing the WTA for failing to protect its players, to failing to disclose something that they ought to have known.
Maybe the goal is to get them to settle with her for a much smaller amount.
Possibly. I think she's just pretty devastated and pissed off about the final ruling, the suspension, because she thought she was cleared to return. And then the tennis integrity agency says, we're going to appeal it to a higher authority.
At the Acapulco tournament this week, the tournament will not be serving meat to players to minimize the risk of contamination with banned substances. Tennis has 2 stops in Mexico this week, Mérida and Acapulco. Of course, if you've been paying attention to the news, you know that there's a lot going on politically in Mexico right now. Quite a few of you have reached out to express relief that we are not in Puerto Vallarta at the moment, which we were 10 days ago.
Right. I have mixed feelings about it, because I do feel sort of like a colonizer even going there. So obviously I'm glad we weren't there, but I genuinely feel for the people who live there year round.
One thing with Tara Moore, though, is we can be sure that this is not the last that we've heard of her and this situation.
No.
Andy Roddick, news came today that he signed a multi-year deal with ESPN to work as a commentator, and he'll begin with Wimbledon this year. Fans of his podcast Served asked John Wertheim today, what does this mean for the podcast? Will it be affected? And John said no. It will have no effect on the podcast. So there'll be more Roddick for all the Roddick lovers out there.
I'm John's working on 60 Minutes. This is not going to meaningfully conflict with the podcast. This is kind of
It may conflict in other ways.
Sure. Right. But that's tennis, right? This is kind of a finally situation. Fans have been calling for a big commentary job for Andy for years, for a decade. And I'm glad he has it. I think he will add a lot to the broadcast. I can give you a few ideas of who they should sub out to put Andy in.
It's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
I'm going to end this episode with a little bit of a pop culture segment, specifically about Monica Denise and Brandy Norwood. These two have been tethered to each other for 30 years. Mm-hmm. They, of course, did The Boy's Mind. There were two up-and-coming R&B prodigies in the 90s. At the time, growing up and being a teenager myself, you had to pick one or the other. That was the tenor of it. You couldn't really support both. You had to decide which one you preferred.
So who are you?
At the time, I was Monica. As you know.
Right. And I was a Brandy fan.
Uh-huh.
I think in the US, Brandy... Well, the thing is, Monica had massive hit singles, but I perceived Brandy as a bigger star. And I think that was a crossover appeal.
That was the acting. Yeah. That was the Cinderella stuff, the Moesha stuff. Monica had huge crossover pop hits as well. That said, I wore out the Never Say Never album. I played that nonstop. I was a fan of Brandy's music as well, but if I had to pick one, I would have picked Monica at the time. Mm-hmm. Of course, there were all these rumors of a huge beef between the two. Supposedly, Gunica boxed down Brandy backstage at one of the award shows.
Yeah. Before one of their performances of The Boy Is Mine, Monica allegedly punched Brandy right before they went on.
And the supposed evidence of that after the fact is the performance itself, whereby you can feel the tension, and also Brandy is making sure to sing the house down in that performance. This went on for decades. People had been calling for a tour with the two of them for such a long time. Finally happened last year. Monica went to great lengths across multiple platforms to explain the process of how this came to be, about how two women just needed to sit down and talk to each other and block out the noise of everybody else who contributed to this supposed rivalry over the years. That is the context to me scrolling on Instagram last week, and I see Brandy doing a post about her birthday. And I was like, oh, it was Brandy's birthday? I missed that. And then I looked at the timestamp, and it was a week prior. So the algorithm wasn't algorithming for me at the time. But I see this, and I go look in the comments. I'm like, let me go look for Monica. And there she is. Happy birthday, Brandy, all caps. Brandy is in these comments interacting with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, except for Monica. She's responding to the Grammys. The Grammys only put a birthday cake emoji. And she's like, oh my God, thank you so much, blah, 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 blah. Nothing on Monica's post. And I just want to say that while this is not a definitive stamp on the case closed, I've always felt that there's just something quite off with that family.
The Norwoods. Something is not right. Brandy,
if you have gone through this decades-long publicly perceived beef that's been squashed in part by this wildly successful joint tour, and you two are now being talked about as going to Vegas for a residency, this is coin for days that's coming up for you. And Monica has gone to such great lengths to talk about how y'all are cool or whatever. Somebody's got to like that post. Somebody's got to do it. It just can't be sitting there for bored-ass people like me who have a podcast to be speculating privately and now publicly about it. You've got to be better than that about it. But over the years, you know, there's the sins of her brother, who is partly responsible for the Kardashians.
Mm-hmm.
There is the fact that that same guy was allegedly Whitney's coke dealer.
Oh.
Who was there Grammy weekend the night that she died. That weekend, Whitney came up to Brandy at a press event and slipped her a piece of paper that only Brandy knows what was on that paper.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if it's Whitney asking her to tell Ray J how much she needs, or if there's something going on behind the scenes that has Whitney shook. But Brandy looks at it and you can see she reacts to it and what have you.
And Whitney did not survive that weekend.
No. I'm not saying Brandy's involved in that in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that family is messy, messy. And Brandy seems to be a little bit of a starfucker, in my opinion.
Oh.
I think that the higher she can aspire to be seen in certain circles, the more she will do to be there. Whereas I don't know what to say. It just rubbed me the wrong way. As much as I love, we saw Brandy at Pride.
We did, yeah. Almost Doesn't Count is one of my favorite songs ever, but I have a lot of favorite Brandy songs. Broken Hearted with Boyz II Men. Monica has been dealing with this image of being ghetto for years, right? They call her, you just called her Gunica, right?
That's
she's gangster, yeah. But it's possible that Brandy is just not a nice person. It might be as simple as that, right? The verses during COVID is what kicked this off, is what prompted them to sort of reunite as friends, or at least business associates.
There's also a sense of realness with Monica that you don't quite get with Brandy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And do you want to say anything about the vocal Bible thing? Do you want to expose yourself?
So folks call Brandy the vocal Bible. I love Brandy. I think she's incredibly talented. I think she... Let me tread lightly. I'm an R&B head. I think she gets a little extra credit for the stacking, for the layering of harmonies, when actually a number of people were doing that in the 90s. Of course, like Jodeci, Mariah Carey, you know, the list goes on. It's not like Brandy invented this. She is an incredibly talented vocalist. I love hearing her sing. But vocal Bible, when you came of age in an era where we had, SWV, Whitney in her R&B era, Mary, Mariah.
Mary?
But what Mary did, I know. She's not the best singer in the world, but Mary is incredibly important. And then you had the man bands. You had Boyz II Men, you had Jodeci, Belle Biv DeVoe. Like, the 90s were such an embarrassment of riches for R&B. I guess I'm just surprised that Brandy got the vocal Bible tag.
It's the tone, is what it is, because she, like Mariah, has one of the most distinct, recognizable tones, smooth as butter, that you'll ever hear. But for me, Bible vocally has to do with range as well.
Yeah, Bible is Whitney and Mariah. Bible is Aretha.
Like the range.
Ella Fitzgerald.
The range is not quite ranging, biblically speaking. Well, cue the hate mail that will ensue from that little segment there. My name is Jonathan. You can find me on Blue Sky at tennis_John.
I'm James at ElliotJMR.
2 L's, 2 T's. You can find everything BodyServe related at linktree.com/thebodyserve. Thanks for listening.
Till next time.
Thank you very much.